Hello， 各位观众朋友，大家好！今天我们要来三探教科文，正式逛逛联合国系统里最艺术的一栋大楼。总部建筑本身由3位建筑大师和11位知名艺术家联袂打造，整体上颇有现代主义和粗野主义的风格。一进门就是纪念品商店，老规矩，买点回去给大家抽了。纪念品箱的旁边呢，是一个很精致的微缩模型，就先从这个标志性的大球开始吧。
这一个作品是我们的象征性地球仪，它是1995年在丹麦社会发展问题世界首脑会议上制成的。当时185国的代表，每个人都收到了一根棍子，自己组装。当时飞董他在这边的 LV 大秀就是在我们的旗帜之间办的。我们这一个穹顶当时是建筑师之一纳尔维坚持要建造，当时其他的建筑师和他争论，觉得这个可能会没有办法支撑，会掉下来，但是他还是坚持到了现在。这个作品是安藤忠雄的冥想空间，它的地板采用了在广岛原子弹中被辐射的花岗岩，不过现在当然已经去污了。
教科文总部内部有近2000件由世界各国赠送的艺术品，其中不乏毕加索和胡安米罗等大师之作。
这一幅作品叫做《水之韵律》，也是11位艺术家之一的巴赞的作品。他用这些马赛克勾勒出了非常鲜活的一些色彩，和静谧的日本花园相对应。这幅画叫做《伊卡洛斯的坠落》，海滩、海洋还有天空，以及一个四肢张开的坠落身影扑向海面。对这幅画有非常多的解读，包括善恶的交锋，善良战胜邪恶。但是毕加索他有亲口说过，这就只是游泳的人而已。这个作品是一个地毯，是罗马尼亚和摩尔多瓦的非遗。
许多作品颇有深意，例如这幅作品被刻意安排在了执行局会议厅的外面，据说是为了领导们一推门就被震撼一下，回去好好工作，造福人类。
这边左右两边就是郭怡聪先生和朱启瞻先生的2幅国画，
很多部分本身也面向公众开放，比如这个大会堂到巴黎来打个卡也挺好的。不过记得要提前预约，免得赶上人家正经开会你就看不到了。当然，今天我们会去一些大家日常去不到的办公区域。之前我们聊过很多次世界遗产和非遗，这些都属于教科文中的文的部分。今天我们来探的是教的部分，全球教育监测报告 GEM Report。Hello，
小 Q， 欢迎探店我们这个联合国教科文组织全球教育监测报告组。虽然我们看到这些办公室它都是看起来比较普通，但是这里可是全球教育数据和政策分析的一个核心阵地。
UNESCO is the lead UN agency for education. And then here in the education corridor at UNESCO, there's one big floor of us all working on education, everyone on different sections. And this end of the building is the Global Education Monitoring Report, where we have a mandate, a UN mandate, voted in by governments to hold all countries to account for progress towards the education targets in the Sustainable Development Agenda. So at the beginning it was mandated in 2002 for the last agenda, which lasted until 2015. And then in 2015, when the new agenda was set, then there was a big World Education Forum and all the countries came together, and there were 160 countries at that forum, and they voted in at that point for the Global Education Monitoring Report to take on that role of monitoring progress in education around the world in relation to those new targets that had just been set. The GEM report is there to take the temperature check of how healthy education systems are in every single country around the world, and to compare every country one from another and see where things are going well and when things are not going well. And what we use when we're looking at what makes good education or bad education, we use the framework that's set up in the global education goal that was mandated and voted on by countries at the UN level.
That's quite a long sentence, but yes.
So UNESCO has an institute that is specifically focused on statistics, and they work with governments who, through things like school censuses, will collect data, and then that comes into a central database which we then analyse. But it's not just that data, we also use many different sources of data as well to try and get as big a picture as we can. Many countries don't produce data the same way. So often our work is to try and take what data there is to try and find what stories we can that make sense.
This is countries spending as a relationship of GDP and share of government expenditure over time. So you can track how the expenditure has been moving for each country over the years.
Is that interactive? Like you can choose
Yes, you can
which country you
choose
want
which
to see.
countries you want to see.
I see. So you have a database actually.
Yes, so we analyze the data and behind it, and we try to create these interesting visuals that help tell the story of the SDG monitoring.
I do monitor like the education indicators on finance, so how much the government actually spends on education from the public sources, but also households. If it is about low-income countries or lower middle-income countries, how much of the money actually comes from donors using the ODA.
What's the most interesting observation when you are doing that research?
The interesting thing is education spends so much, obviously, on teacher salaries. And so there's a very little flexibility as to how much you can actually spend on operational costs, like recurring cost, to improve the, let's say, everyone's education access or everyone's learning, you know.
So what will be your suggestion?
And I think it's about a priority. There's a lot of competing priorities in the country. So education tends to be a little bit, it has to compete against other sectors. And that's always a difficult task.
Like every sector could be important for the country.
Yes.
Education is obviously important, but there's also economic development.
Yes.
There's also health.
Yes, and then you don't see the outcome immediately. And also in terms of education, it's a little bit an intangible outcome in a way that it's difficult to measure within a year or two. Sometimes it can be a lifelong, achievement.
So I think we show the scale of the problem by presenting the data, and then we provide policy recommendations as well for how that can be fixed. And we work with partners who might unpack some of our data into actionable recommendations in different countries as well. So we have a huge finance gap. What can we do about it? What does that mean? Part of our job is to provide the urgency, and other people's job is to use the information and the evidence that we provide to advocate for change. It's a general policy recommendation. Our recommendations don't look at one particular country. They're more look at general rules that would be helpful for countries to consider. But I think our very specific take on this is not to say you have to do that, but to look at what many countries are doing, and then that drives other countries to consider doing the same.
那你可以看到我们这边有一些 posters， 然后上面就是写了每一年我们制定的一些主题。这个是我们2021年和22年，我们的主题就是这个教育里面的非政府或者非国家这个行为体，比如说这个私营部门，还有这个民间组织力量，他们在这个教育治理中，还有这些融资等方面的一些贡献。2023年啊，我们的主题是这个教育和技术。
We have an advisory board who comes together. They come together once a year and they choose our theme. They vote on the theme. And the board is made up of donors, country representatives, of civil society, youth members, and they come together and we present a few themes, and then they choose one that they think is the most important for education that year. I think we just released a report, and it showed that only 1 in 10 children in Africa are completing primary school and learning the basics, what's called minimum proficiency levels. And that is very low. And I think that's quite surprising and disappointing considering where we are. And I think it just throws everything else into question. We're talking about high-tech digital technology, and we're talking about, the quality of school meals and everything, but the basics are that what education is meant to do, get children into school and help them learn, it's just not happening. So yes, we have less than 5 years to go. I think it's sadly generally agreed that we will not achieve SDG 4 in its entirety. It's pretty much impossible with 272 million children out of school. I think we calculated it would mean getting a new child into school every 2 seconds. It's not feasible, especially with the finances plummeting as they are at the moment. But it doesn't mean that there isn't still progress that we can do between now and 2030. And I think that the general agreement is that after 2030, it's not like we have a whole new set of goals that are completely different. We're going to have to keep working on the goals that we've got at the minute.
有一个非常有意思的英国人，他在中国待了几年，然后他中文特别好。
好，
你好，这个是
Hello
Michael， 这就是我说的 This is Q。
哦，很高兴认识你。
对，他的中文非常好。对，你可以。
你在北京、上海？
不是开封。
开封？
河南的开封。
啊，你在开封做什么呢？
做英语老师。
啊，教小学生、中学生？
教小学生。
所以你在开封待了多久？
待了1年，所以
就这么中文就这么好吗？
而且在广州1年，还有在台北1年。
啊
，3年。
广州，所以你会说 Cantonese 吗？
唔識聽。
識啲唔識講啦。
識講一啲啊。
哦。
卡尔梅克。
啊？
哦，俄罗斯的一个俄罗斯联邦的其中一个共和国。不是。
成型了。
你们结束了吗？
还没有，我们去下面拍一拍。对对。
逛一逛。
对，逛一逛。
我觉得好漂亮。
这啥好东西？
为了感谢我们小 Q 来拍摄，我们送了一个
20周年纪念款
，20周年的纪念款的这个 GEM 报告的包。
好，抽掉。
然后还有一个，猜猜这个是什么？
啊，小 U 盘。好的，这是什么联名款吗？这个相当于
也是 GEM 报告的
啊，GEM 报告的。
2019年的限定。
2019年做的会不会还能用吗？有电吗？谢谢。在联合国系统里，如果说安理会负责你们不要再打了，那教科文组织负责的就是打仗这事儿，最好让大家想都别想。这正是刻在教科文总部石碑上的那句话：战争起源于人之思想，故务须于人之思想中筑起保卫和平之屏障。感谢你看到这里，如果你有什么问题，欢迎评论区留言。我是小 Q，我们下期再见。